Hi guys, it's been over 10 years since Scotland had an independence referendum, and so much has changed since then. We've seen a change of monarch, we've seen Conservative prime ministers come and go, we've seen Brexit, of course, we've seen austerity, we saw a pandemic, we saw the powers in Westminster change on so many occasions. So the question has to be asked, how can Scotland have another referendum? And a Tory peer, somebody who donated £150,000 to the political party, was asked, and he set his own criteria. Have a listen to this.
If these ideas are good, can we take them on and stop arguing about ideologies and work out how we make Scotland more prosperous? That's the only thing that matters to me. What was that guy? It was Harry Truman that said, it's amazing. You can change the world if you don't mind who takes the credit, right? Yeah. If these are good ideas, can we just get on with them, and can we gather around them, and can we make Holyrood a place of intelligent conversation, of challenging thought, of curiosity of mind, where everyone's not thinking the same? What it said, when everyone's thinking the same, no one's thinking, right? Can we please have Holyrood become almost like a laboratory of ideas, of innovation? Let's try it. Oh, it didn't work. Well, let's try something else, see if that works. To me, that is what Holyrood should. Holyrood's got all the power at the moment to do that, but instead is obsessed with this continual wrangle about the Constitution. And it's obsessed with this continual ideology. The only way to sort something out is for the state to spend money.
But let me come in on the Constitution point, because this frustrates me somewhat as well, because the SNP get labelled obsessing over independence. Well, who knew? That was what the Scottish National Party believe in. But fundamentally, for that conversation just to stop, that discussion, that back and forth, there needs to be an agreed process. There needs to be an agreed process from the UK government that says, if this metric is met, we will have a referendum. And then that allows the space for the conversations that you want to have take place in earnest.
Well, I would say to that Alex Salmond got his referendum because he earned the right to get one, right? He won a majority in Holyrood, and he ran a good administration on the whole, and he was able to demonstrate that he was able to create, that there was growth. I mean, if you look at the growth rate of Scotland under his administration, it was a higher growth rate, right? And it was an 84% turnout, Jeff. I mean, that is the highest turnout. I mean, people around the world were studying this in political science all over the world. This was the highest turnout of any vote except Australia, where it's compulsory to vote. So the Scots were engaged in this conversation. 3.6 million of them voted, 2 million to stay, 1.6 million to remain. That is a decisive result, and Salmond knew it, and that's why he made his comment about that's for a generation, right? Now, if I had been Alex Salmond and I'd got the vote from 30 to 45%, I would have been entitled, I think, to say I'm handing over to Sturgeon. She can get it from 45 to 60%, right? And you're part of that journey. But that hasn't happened, and that hasn't happened because we've had a government which has not been interested in growth, and we've had a welfare economy with flatlined. And guess what? The polls are flatlined. So therefore, it's not. You can't have the conversation because you haven't earned the right, So my view would be earn the right to do it.
You earn the right. So this is insane. So you have a Tory peer telling the Scottish government, you don't have the right to have a second referendum. I thought it was a union of equals. It's not very equal if somebody has to go begging to the UK government saying, please, can I have permission to have a referendum? And the Tory government at the time, and now the Labour government, say, well, you don't meet our criteria. And our criteria is you need to have a booming economy, you need to have this, you need to have that. Once again, I ask this question, can you imagine asking Brexiteers or telling Brexiteers that the EU said, no, you haven't met our criteria to leave the European Union. You have to meet certain standards. You have to have a booming economy. You have to have low unemployment. You have to have all these. Notice that his rhetoric is directed at the SNP government, at the Scottish government, not the Scottish people. But it's the Scottish people that would decide to leave the UK, not the Scottish government. The Scottish government facilitates that process, but it's not the Scottish government that decides it. So he's denying the Scottish people because he has contempt for the Scottish people. I can't come to any other conclusion. This guy cares nothing about the Scottish people because he only cares about holding on to some sort of power. He doesn't want a change in the status quo, probably because he's doing quite well out of this because of low taxation on wealth or low taxation on land in Scotland. Because if Scotland became independent, that situation would change. You would probably see a wealth tax, and very rich people in Scotland would end up having to pay their fair share. They're not paying it, of course, at the moment because of the situation decided in Westminster. You know, when they keep saying, well, if Scotland is doing well, it's because it's part of the UK. When Scotland is doing badly, it's because of the SNP government. But in reality, we know that the government in Scotland does not have complete and utter control. It doesn't have control over income tax. It doesn't have control over immigration. And the Scottish government has been crying out for more workers in the care sector and in the NHS. And the way the NHS operates in Scotland is very different to England. You have many more remote areas, so it's more difficult, more expensive to facilitate healthcare in those areas. It's more difficult to provide social care in those areas. The situation is very different. And all you hear from Westminster is, well, the Scottish government is doing badly. It's not meeting our standards. Once again, listen to the rhetoric here. His anger, his rejection is directed at the Scottish government, saying, you must meet my criteria. And he's ignoring the Scottish people because he has contempt for the Scottish people. They're not important in his view. It's the Scottish people that should decide the referendum. Once again, the government facilitate that. But I have to put this question out to Scottish unionists in particular, but unionists in general. What is the criteria for Scotland to have a referendum? And if there is criteria, another question. Is the United Kingdom a union of equals? Because it certainly doesn't feel like that. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.